That afternoon, golden sunlight poured over the bustling street, mixing the sounds of traffic with the mouth-watering aroma from a tiny taco stand by the sidewalk. Leo and Kevin, college friends turned lifelong companions, were enjoying a leisurely lunch. Kevin was happily devouring a steaming hot taco, while Leo sipped his chilled soda with ease. Neither of them had the faintest idea that, in just a few minutes, their peaceful meal would be completely upended. From across the street came the sound of an argument, loud enough to drown out even the blaring car horns. Leo instinctively looked up. A young woman, strikingly beautiful with sharp features and a captivating figure, stood face to face with a man in a white shirt, his expression dark and tense. Their heated words blended into the flow of passers-by, but the tension between them was palpable to anyone nearby. Kevin, never one to get involved in drama, immediately ducked his head toward his plate and muttered, "Probably some relationship mess, best not to get involved." But Leo felt an odd pull. The woman, he would later learn her name was Isabelle, wasn't just pretty, she radiated a fierce energy, as if she would never allow anyone to control or belittle her. Suddenly, Isabelle's gaze flicked toward Leo, catching him watching her. In that split second, as if struck by a sudden idea, she abandoned her ex-boyfriend mid-argument and strode straight toward Leo's table. Kevin's eyes widened. "Oh no, don't tell me she's..." He didn't finish the sentence. Instead, he shot to his feet, muttered something about getting more napkins, and vanished into the crowd, leaving Leo blinking in confusion. Isabelle stopped in front of him, her lips curved into a faint smile while her eyes held an unwavering determination. "You," she said firmly, "are going to help me with something." Before Leo could react, he found himself being drawn into a situation that had nothing to do with him, or at least, that's what he thought. Turning back toward the man she'd been arguing with, Isabelle's expression shifted to a daring smile, her eyes glittering with challenge. "Meet my fiancé," she said loudly, ensuring the man heard every word. Leo nearly choked on his soda. "Wait, what?" he stammered, but Isabelle didn't acknowledge his shock. She slipped her arm through his as if they'd known each other for years. Across the street, her ex froze in place, his face shifting from surprise to fury. "Are you kidding me, Isabelle?" he growled. "No," she replied coolly. "I'm moving on. You should too." With that, she turned back to Leo, her eyes suddenly serious. Her voice dropped so only he could hear. "You have 5 minutes to decide," she said. "I need someone to pretend to be my husband for a few months. $10,000 a month. No strings, no marital obligations. Just sign some papers, show up when needed, and play the part convincingly. Are you in?" Leo blinked repeatedly, both bewildered and stunned by the number. $10,000 a month? For an office worker barely scraping by to pay rent, this was like a gift from the heavens. "You're serious?" he asked again, dead serious. "And we need to go now, before he tries to ruin it." Leo's brain hadn't yet processed the risks, or the potential legal consequences, before his mouth blurted out, "All right. I'm in." Without hesitation, Isabelle grabbed his hand and pulled him along as if afraid he might change his mind. Kevin had just returned, holding a bag of freshly bought tacos, only to witness Leo being dragged out of the cafe by a stunning woman. "What the hell?" Kevin froze, unable to believe his eyes. 15 minutes later, they arrived at City Hall. Isabelle handled the paperwork with such speed and precision that Leo couldn't help but wonder how long she had been planning for this exact scenario. Papers were laid out, signatures were inked, and in less than an hour, Leo, a man who had been expecting a quiet lunch, was now the legal husband of a woman he had met less than 60 minutes ago. As they stepped outside, Isabelle turned to him with a triumphant smile. "Welcome to the shortest, and probably the strangest, marriage you'll ever know." Leo could only exhale, caught between excitement, curiosity, and the unsettling sense that he had just stepped into a dangerous game, though oddly enough, he didn't want to walk away, leaving City Hall with the marriage certificate still smelling of fresh ink. Isabelle strode toward the parking lot, pulling open her car door while fishing out her phone. The screen lit up with the name Mom. She took a deep breath and pressed call. "Mom, I'm married," Isabelle said flatly, her tone as calm as if she were announcing she'd bought a new dress. There was a brief silence on the other end, followed by a surprised sigh. "You got married? To who?" "Don't tell me, it's not who you think," Isabelle cut in, glancing at Leo, who still clutched the marriage papers. "His name is Leo. You know grandfather's terms are clear, married before my 28th birthday to qualify for the inheritance. So I did it." Her mother stayed quiet for a moment before finally saying, "If you're sure, I'll support you. But Isabelle, don't make things harder for yourself." When the call ended, Isabelle sat still for a moment, absently twisting the wedding band on her ring finger. Everything had happened so fast, yet the image of Leo agreeing without a hint of hesitation made her smile despite herself. At least, he was interesting. Meanwhile, across town, Kevin nearly choked on his drink as Leo filled him in. "Hold on, let me get this straight," Kevin said, leaning forward with wide eyes. "You just agreed to a fake marriage, with a real-life supermodel, for 10 grand a month? And you don't have to do anything?" Leo shrugged, as if it were no big deal. "Well, just sign papers, play the husband when needed. That's it. Easy as eating tacos." Kevin's eyes widened before he burst out laughing. "You really hit the jackpot, man. But hey, be careful. In movies, contract marriages usually come with some insane plot twists." Leo only gave a distracted smile, not paying much attention. At that moment, only one thought lingered in his mind: life from today onward would be completely different. Not just because of the money, but because of the way Isabelle had looked at him while signing the papers, an expression he couldn't quite explain, but one he knew would haunt him for a long time. Outside, the sky slowly shifted to the colors of dusk. A marriage that didn't start from love, yet no one could predict how it would end. The next afternoon, Isabelle sent Leo a short message: "We need to talk." They met at a quiet cafe near the city center. Isabelle sat upright, set her handbag aside, and spoke first. "Since this is a contract marriage, I'd like to set a few ground rules. First, you will play the role of my husband during family occasions, birthday parties, gatherings, holidays. You just need to show up, dress appropriately, and behave politely. Nothing more." Leo nodded, trying to look serious. "Play the dutiful son-in-law? Works for me. I'll smile, nod, and eat all the food your mother serves." Isabelle arched an eyebrow but made no comment. "Second, under no circumstances should the press or our friends know this is a fake marriage. You know the consequences if it gets out." "Understood, my dear wife," Leo drawled teasingly, forcing Isabelle to take a deep breath to keep her composure. Just when it seemed the conversation was over, Leo suddenly spoke up. "Oh, one thing. I need a place to stay. My dorm just told me to move out because my lease is up. And I can't exactly afford a private apartment right now." Isabelle hesitated. She had never considered living with her contract husband. But then, recalling her grandfather's constant wish for her to settle down, she sighed. "Fine. But we'll keep our distance. You'll stay in the guest area, and you're not allowed to enter my room without permission." The next day, Isabelle sent her personal assistant, Maria, to pick Leo up. When the black sedan pulled up in front of the rundown dorm, Leo was sitting on the steps with a scuffed suitcase and a frayed backpack. Maria stepped out, her tone formal. "Please get in the car. Miss Isabelle has prepared a room for you." Leo almost laughed at the way she said "miss," but he obediently loaded his things and got in. Over half an hour later, the car turned onto a tree-lined road and stopped before a tall iron gate with an automatic scanner. Beyond it stood a 3-story white villa, complete with a garden and a swimming pool, so grand that Leo had to blink several times to believe it was real. Maria led him inside, across a thick carpeted hallway and up a winding wooden staircase. When the guest room door opened, Leo was nearly speechless. It was bigger than his entire dorm floor, with floor-to-ceiling glass windows, a balcony overlooking a rose garden, a large bed covered in crisp white sheets, and a bookshelf filled with both novels and fashion magazines. "This is your room. It has a private bathroom, a wardrobe, and a minibar," Isabelle said. "She doesn't want you to feel uncomfortable," Maria said, placing the key on the table. Leo took a slow turn around the room, then flopped onto the bed, smiling to himself. From a cramped dorm to a 5-star hotel. Life sure knows how to mess with you. On the other side of the villa, Isabelle stood by the second-floor window, gently pulling back the curtain. She saw Leo smiling so casually, as if living together was the most natural thing in the world. Isabelle wasn't sure if she had just welcomed a new companion into her home, or invited a massive headache, but either way, the game had already begun. From now on, they would have to learn how to live under the same roof, even if they were only husband and wife on paper. In the first few days in the spacious villa, Leo felt like he was living in a luxury movie, except the female lead was almost never on screen. Isabelle usually left early in the morning, returning late at night, and sometimes didn't come home at all due to work or social events. The house was so quiet that even the ticking of the wall clock felt loud. Leo quickly turned the enormous living room into his base, the sofa became his bed, the coffee table transformed into his desk, and the giant TV screen became his companion every night. He often texted Kevin, half complaining and half boasting, "You know what? The living room here is bigger than the 2-bedroom apartment I used to dream about." Kevin replied instantly, "Then enjoy it. You're living rent-free and getting 10 grand a month. Total jackpot." Still, Leo couldn't shake off a slight sense of disappointment. Even though he and Isabelle were married, they barely had the chance to talk. Everything between them was just contracts and agreements, nothing more. One evening, Isabelle unexpectedly came home early. She stepped inside, her fitted business dress accentuating her graceful figure, the faint scent of perfume mixing with the cool night air clinging to her. Leo, who was sprawled out on the sofa, quickly sat up. "Oh, you're home." Isabelle took off her coat, hung it on the rack, and sat down across from him. "Next week, we're going to visit your parents." Leo raised his brows, a little taken aback. "Visit my parents?" "Yes. You said in our agreement you'd play the role of my husband in front of my family, so I should return the favor. Your parents need to see that we're doing fine." Her words carried a hint of humor, but they were enough for Leo to understand she was serious. He nodded, already imagining the shock on his parents' faces when they found out he'd gotten married without telling them. "All right. But, have you eaten?" Leo asked. Isabelle shook her head slightly. "No." Leo jumped up and headed to the kitchen, rummaging through the fridge. There was nothing but a few packs of ramen, some eggs, and green onions. He quickly cooked up 2 steaming bowls of noodles, the aroma filling the kitchen. Setting them down on the table, Leo pushed one toward Isabelle. "Here, eat this for now." Isabelle glanced at the bowl, then, without the slightest hesitation, she pulled Leo's bowl toward herself. "Yours has more." "I'll take this one." "Hey." Leo protested, but could only watch as she lifted the noodles with her chopsticks, her eyes lighting up at the warmth and flavor in the middle of the night. In that moment, Leo realized it was the first time they had ever shared a meal together. The villa suddenly felt less silent, and amid the sound of slurping noodles, the invisible distance between them seemed to shrink just a little. If Isabelle had noticed, she might have seen Leo's faint smile, a mix of awkwardness and anticipation. Maybe, these first days of living together wouldn't be filled with nothing but distance as he had imagined. That weekend, Leo took Isabelle to visit his family. On the way, he reminded her, just smile and nod. My mom's the type who will interrogate anyone I bring home. Isabelle only gave a mysterious smile. She wore a cream-colored midi dress with tiny floral prints, her hair tied low, makeup so subtle that Leo almost didn't recognize her as the same woman who had once argued with him fiercely in the middle of the street. The moment they stepped into the yard, Leo's mother, Maria, appeared with a beaming smile. But as soon as she saw Isabelle, she skipped right past her son and rushed over to hold the young woman's hands. Oh my goodness, is this your wife? Why didn't you tell me earlier so I could prepare? Isabelle, right? You're so beautiful. Leo blinked several times. Mom, aren't you going to ask me at least one question first? But Maria paid him no mind. She pulled Isabelle inside, chatting nonstop. Can you handle spicy food? My chili chicken is famous. Oh, do you prefer tea or coffee? I've got the most fragrant chamomile tea. Leo could only trail behind, feeling like a supporting character in his own family. Throughout the meal, Isabelle answered every question with both politeness and skill. From playing the role of the happy wife to sharing stories about her school days, she adapted with ease. No one could have guessed they had known each other for less than a week. You know, Maria said with twinkling eyes, when Leo was little, he was so naughty. He once climbed the neighbor's roof to pick mangoes. When he got caught, he cried buckets. Mom, why are you telling her that? Leo exclaimed, his face flushing red. Isabelle laughed softly, giving him a quick glance. I think, you must have been adorable as a kid. That one sentence made Maria like her even more. She piled Isabelle's bowl high with food until the younger woman had to gently refuse. After lunch, Maria pulled Isabelle into her private room. The door closed, leaving Leo in the living room, full of curiosity. What could they be talking about? 15 minutes later, Isabelle came out, her smile still bright, but her eyes glinting with a trace of secrecy. Maria walked them to the gate, leaning in to whisper to Isabelle, next time, remember to bring Leo over again, daughter-in-law. Leo couldn't hold back anymore. What did you two talk about? Why do you look so happy, Mom? Isabelle simply tilted her head with a playful smile. Women's secrets. You don't need to know. On the way home, Leo grew even more curious, but Isabelle stubbornly kept her lips sealed. He felt both frustrated and slightly amazed. Somehow, in just one afternoon, Isabelle had completely won over his mother, something he never thought could happen so easily. Deep down, Leo suddenly realized that the image of his contract wife now carried an extra shade of charm, not just beauty, but also a subtle, captivating grace. Ever since Isabelle had dismissed her private chef, the vast mansion had become strangely quiet during meals, except for the sounds of Leo clattering around in the kitchen. At first, he thought he'd just make a few simple meals, but Isabelle was far more serious about it. She even sent detailed menus through her assistant. Breakfast had to be toast with soft-boiled eggs, lunch was seared salmon salad, and dinner absolutely had to include French-style bone broth. Do you think I'm running a restaurant? Leo typed on his phone, glaring at the menu list that was as long as an essay. Isabelle simply replied, you're being paid. And you cook well. Not only that, Isabelle insisted that Leo bring the food to her office. The first time he stepped into the luxurious building, he felt as if he'd wandered into another world, glass elevators, a lobby the size of his mother's entire living room. Isabelle's assistant greeted him with a polite smile, leading him straight to the CEO's office. When he walked in, Isabelle was seated behind her desk, hair neatly tied up, her face serious. But the moment she saw the lunchbox in his hands, her eyes softened noticeably. Leave it there, she said calmly, though the corners of her lips curved ever so slightly. And so, delivering meals became a daily routine. Soon, everyone at the company recognized Leo. Whenever he came, the security guard would nod in greeting, the receptionist would smile politely, and some employees would whisper, "That's the boss's husband." Leo felt both amused and a little proud. That evening, while washing dishes, Leo video called Kevin. "You know what?" Leo said, half bragging, half complaining. "Today I brought lunch to Isabelle. The whole company looked at me like I was some VIP." Kevin burst out laughing. "You really are the textbook definition of a kept man. Do they pay you extra for PR?" Leo shot him a glare. "PR my ass. I'm just fulfilling my duties." Even though he often grumbled, Leo was starting to realize he didn't actually hate this job. Every time Isabelle finished the food he cooked, even without clear praise, he still felt a small sense of pride. And it seemed Isabelle had grown a little less cold too, occasionally asking him a few questions about his day. One evening, when he brought a homemade tiramisu to the living room, Isabelle looked up from her laptop, slightly surprised. "You made this?" "Yeah. If it's not good, don't eat it," Leo replied with a teasing tone. Isabelle took a bite, her eyes softening briefly. "It's good," she said curtly, but to Leo, it was the longest compliment he'd ever gotten from her. He suddenly thought this kept man life might not be as bad as he had imagined. And maybe, this was only the beginning. That morning, Leo woke up early, excited to meet Isabelle's family for the first time. He rummaged through his closet before deciding to buy a new navy blue suit, complete with a matching tie. When he got home, he held the receipt out to Isabelle, half joking, half serious. "Cover this for me, will you? After all, this is an important occasion for you." Isabelle glanced at the receipt, smirking. "No. Did you think I hired you as a fake husband so I could also pay for your clothes? I already have a suit prepared for you." Leo froze. Before he could react, she opened the wardrobe and took out a neatly pressed ash gray suit with a silver tie. He accepted it, feeling both annoyed and embarrassed for buying an extra one. But the real shock came when he stepped into the living room and saw Isabelle, still in a pale pink silk pajama set, her hair loosely tied up, wearing only light makeup. Leo gaped. "Wait, you're going to meet your parents like that?" Isabelle answered casually, "Yes. They're my parents, no need to put on a show. Besides, I want them to see I'm comfortable with you, like a real married couple." Leo was puzzled, but then he understood. This time, Isabelle wasn't playing for appearances. On the way there, they unexpectedly talked more than usual. Isabelle shared stories from her childhood, about her strict but deeply loving grandfather. Leo shared clumsy memories from when he first moved from the countryside to the city for school. They both gradually realized they were no longer keeping the same distance as before. When they arrived, Isabelle's parents welcomed them warmly. Although they were initially surprised by their daughter's natural look, they were quickly won over by Leo's sincerity and humor. He spoke about married life in a light-hearted way, sometimes making Isabelle blush but also smile. During the meal, Isabelle absent-mindedly placed a piece of fish into Leo's bowl, while Leo pushed the hot soup away so it wouldn't spill on her hand. Small gestures, but Isabelle's parents noticed them all. On the way home, Isabelle was silent for a long while. Then she softly said, "You did well today, Leo. Thank you for being here with me, not just because of the contract." Leo smiled and replied gently, "Maybe. I don't think of this as just a contract anymore." They looked at each other, and in that moment, their smiles became an unspoken confession. This fake marriage was slowly turning into something real, naturally, and sweeter than either of them had ever imagined.